All right, and we are back. As I said, I am making this video for my friends. It's just an informative video on battles and battle orders in Total War Warhammer. Actually, this is Total War Warhammer 2. As you can see, I am a big Lizardmen fan. So happy to have them in the second game. I was really hoping I didn't have to wait till the third game. Um, and just look at that happy little fella right there. It's just adorable. All right, so enough of that. If you click on a character such as a lord, if you see the blue circle around the unit, that is their basically ring of leadership. So any characters around a lord in their ring of leadership suffer not suffer, but have bonuses placed on them in terms of leadership, which means they don't break as easy, which means your army can stick around longer. So usually you're going to want your lord um, either close enough to so like you could have him all the way back here and he's still hitting these guys for leadership. But Mazda Mundi isn't the most melee-centric lord, but you want them somewhat close to your troops, but not really in harm's way, because you want them alive, but you also want them buffing your troops. So just keep that in mind. Um, if we look over here to the left, we see the unit details card. This tells you a lot about a character. This character obviously is a spellcaster. Here's his spells right here. He is armored, meaning he can block sources of damage that are not armor piercing. So for instance, if we look here at our source warriors, they have damage, right? But they have 34 weapon damage and then 18 armor piercing. So technically, if they were fighting Mazda Mundi, if they hit him, they would only be doing 18 points of damage, um, as opposed to the 52, um, because his armor is 140. So they're definitely not going to get through that with only 34 weapon damage. Um, if we keep looking here, obviously you see the number and size of the unit. Was really cool what they did in Total War Warhammer 2 was they made a difference between large units and small units. Um, Small units uh, do not fight as well against large units usually. Obviously, there are halberds, things like that, but small units, they can get trampled easier by cavalry. They can get thrown around by monsters and monstrous creatures. So that is really cool because sometimes you can't really tell if a creature is considered large or small. Now, obviously, in this case, you can tell that a giant stegodon with a giant toad on top of it is going to be considered a large character. But sometimes you really can't tell. It also tells you how many troops are in that unit and how many are currently in the unit. So if you are fighting and some of your units die, this number will actually go down. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, also as the battle goes on, the experience bar will go up. The more kills they get on a unit, the better units they kill, the more experience they gain. So if they're just slaughtering Skaven slaves by the wave, they're really not going to get that much experience. But if these guys take down, let's say, a unit of rat ogres, that's going to garner them a good chunk of experience. Also over here, this shows how many kills this unit has made. And all those kills, obviously, as it states right there, go towards experience. So that's what this is. Also, if you notice up here, this tells you what kind of unit the character is. Sometimes there are shock cavalry, which are supposed to be run into the flank of an enemy and then charge back out and then charge back in, just cycle charge. There are spears, which are usually good against cavalry units. There are missile infantry, so like your archers, your handgunners, things like that. And then there are different types of melee infantry, so mace infantry, axe infantry, sword infantry. Normally, sword infantry is higher melee attack. They can strike a little faster. Um, Axe infantry, normally a little bit slower, but usually higher armor-piercing damage. Mace infantry, same thing, usually a little bit slower on the attack, but higher weapon strength and higher armor-piercing. So just keep that in mind. Those are all things that are good to know. This down here tells you how many hit points the unit has. Hit points and numbers in the unit are totally different. So let's say we get a cannon shot into these Saurus warriors, 5 of them die. They could lose, 500 hit points, but only have 5 of the 100 die. So just keep that in mind. Those are separate levels. They are not the same. You could have a very weakened unit, but still have 60 of that unit. So that is something to keep in mind. Over here, we have armor. Obviously, armor helps in avoiding melee attacks or just, blocking the damage coming in. It also helps against missiles. So a higher armor unit is going to do well against missiles. So Mazda Mundi here at 140, he's going to be pretty hard to take down with archer fire. So you're going to have to think of a different way than that. Over here we have leadership. Again, like I said, leadership, it can go up and down during a battle. Usually if you are on the winning side, your troops' leadership will either stay higher than the enemies or even, increase as the battle goes along. If you are losing, your troops will slowly lose their leadership based on, losses suffered during the battle, and a multitude of other things which I'll get into. Speed here, this is just how fast your unit moves. It's kind of nice to have fast moving units because then you can flank your enemy, which again I will get into in another video. Melee attack, that just is the value of how likely it is you are to strike an enemy unit. So this is out of a base 100. So right here, they basically, every chance they swing, they have about a 28% chance to hit. And that is, just a rough number for you. The higher the melee attack, the higher chance you have to hit. Same thing with melee defense, only the opposite. Higher melee defense, higher chance your units have to dodge an attack. Weapon strength, this is if your melee attack hits, how much damage you will do to that enemy unit. So, you can have all the weapon strength you want, but if you don't have the melee attack to go along with it, if you can't hit the broadside of a barn, you're not going to do any damage to enemy units. So you're going to want to make sure you buff that melee attack along with your weapon strength. Don't just pour all your hero and lord skills, the melee lords, in weapon strength. You're going to want that attack and defense as well, or at least attack, if you're aggressive like me. And if you want to play a defensive game, buff the defense by all means. But that is how those three work together, how they're intertwined. And then charge bonus, obviously infantry aren't going to have a large charge bonus, but this is more for your cavalry, your monsters, things like that. As you can see, Mazda Mundi on Zlak, his faithful Stegodon, has a charge bonus of 70 as opposed to a charge bonus of 16 for these infantry. So when Lord Mazda Mundi hits, he hits like a truck. So just be aware of that. And that is it for the unit details card. Okay. The next thing we're going to want to look at down here is let's look at grouping and how to use that most effectively. So usually what I do is I group my lords and heroes together, and then my infantry, and then my ranged units, and then my cavalry, and then my artillery and monstrous units, things like that. So how you can group these characters together is you can either hit Control G or Control 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. But if you hit Control 1, it turns it to, now he is, if I click on these Horse Warriors, I want to switch back to Lord Mazda Mundi real quick. I just hit 1, boom, I have Mazda Mundi selected. To select multiple units, you can hit Control and select each one individually. Let's say you have, 20 units, and you have this is a melee unit, this is a range unit, this is a melee unit, but you want your melee units together. You can hit this one, hit Control, hit this one, then either Control G or Control 2, and you've turned that to Group 2. Also, if you want to take multiple units and, across a whole line, you can click on one unit, hold Shift, click on another, you've selected all 3, and now you've grouped them all together. You can also do this by just clicking on the units. So if you know which units on the field you're seeing that you want together, you just click here, hold Shift, click here, and you've selected all 3. Okay. A couple more things before we stomp these Skaven. Down here is guard mode. Guard mode is extremely important. If you have missile units behind these melee units, so let's say we have some skirmishers back here, they are going to be firing away at the enemy. If you're like me, you usually like to have the enemy come to you if you can. If you toggle these guys into guard mode, any enemy attacking you, once they hit these guys, if this unit wins in battle, they will not go chasing off that unit that just lost to this unit. They will stay where they are. If you do not have this on, and they are attacking, and they are engaged in combat with a creature next to it or in front of it, and that creature or unit runs away, they will chase that unit down until there's nothing left of them. So you're going to want to toggle the guard mode on to keep them from running away. Also, you could choose a melee front or a missile front. I usually don't even bother with that. What you can basically do is, if you have let's say there's skirmishers back here, and you select the skirmishers and your melee, you can hit missile front, and then all of a sudden your missile units are going to be placed in front of your melee units. I don't really use it. I think it's kind of a waste of time, but that's just because that's how I play. I only play with my missiles in front and my melee in front and my missiles in back. So let's start this battle. Alright, so as you can see here, we're just gonna, so what you can do is you can select these units. You can left click, drag, and you've selected all the units. What you can also do is you can click on Mazda Mundi, hold Shift, select all the way over, select them all. To move these units, you can just, click like that, but watch what happens. So we'll speed this up. Now, Mazda Mundi has gone into the front with your melee units, but we don't want that. We want Mazda Mundi behind these units. So what we're going to do is we're going to move these units in formation. So you will see what I mean here in a second. Let's turn old Big Boss around. Also, up here, I do apologize for not explaining this. You can pause the game, play it in slow motion, play it in normal speed, play it a little bit faster than normal, and then really fast. This is usually when you're chasing down units or showing off things like I am right now. To move in formation, all you have to do is select all the units you want together, hold Alt, left click, and then you can, when you're holding left click, you can move these units anywhere you want. So just watch. We'll just move them very, very short, very small distance. Okay. All right. Now, while they're in formation, you're holding Alt and left click still. You can hit the Control button and you can rotate their formation. So let's show what that looks like. So as you can see, they all moved. Nice row. They've maintained their formation. Formations are key. If you do not have good formations, that could cost you a battle. Formations keep units together. They keep a cohesive front line. It makes it harder for your enemy to break your lines, things like that. So it is extremely important to keep a good formation. As well, along with everything else, you see Mazda Mundi is technically a ranged unit right now because he has his little skink buddies with him on his palanquin. If you don't want Mazda Mundi to just fire off at anything, you can just toggle the fire at will button and he will not be able to fire at whatever he wants. I usually leave it on, but that's just because if anything's coming at my guys, I want them to know and to be shooting at them. So Alt Control, as you can see here, they are in the run mode. This is unit speed. You can have your units march. It is extremely important for your units to conserve energy when possible. Units with lower vigor, as you can see there with the little legs, and it says fresh, that means they have a lot of vigor and energy left, so they will do well in battle. As their vigor goes down, their melee attack will go down, their melee defense will go down, they will be just less potent in battle. So just keep that in mind, that if you can march these guys forward, instead of running them forward, I would suggest doing so. So let's just march them forward and you'll see what I'm talking about. So you see they're just marching. They are not running, they're just marching. You can also stop them from moving. Say you see more units coming out of the trees over here, you just hit halt, or alternatively, let's move, you can hit backspace and boom, they've stopped immediately. Alright, so what we want to do now is kind of show off one last thing for this episode, and then we will cut it off and then we'll call it a night. So over here we have 3 units, and obviously they have a lord, we have a lord. If you want to attack these units, you can do one of 2 things. You can select them all and you can right click and then they will march to those units, or you can double right click and they will run to those units. But they're all going to attack one unit. They're all going to attack that unit I told them to attack. However, let's pause this. Let's press halt, we will stop that attack order. If we group this unit together, what that does is that tells this unit that they are to attack as a formation. So now I will select them to attack the rat ogres, but I've selected these rat ogres right here. But watch, as you'll see, they will move forward in formation, but instead of attacking all the same unit, what they will do is they will attack the unit closest to them. And what that means is this unit should attack this unit. This unit is probably going to attack this unit in front, as well as this unit is probably going to attack this unit in front. But in a perfect world, these guys would be lined up, the AI wouldn't have set up so well, and you would have seen 3 different units attack 3 different units. So let's see what happens here. Okay. So as you can see, the units are attacking the units closest to them. Now, this opens up something very interesting. As I was stating, there are multiple ways to attack an enemy. One way to really be effective is to flank. And what you do is you set up on the side and you attack the enemy from behind. And the reason you would do that is to lower enemy morale. Now the computer's not going to play nice, but as you can see, We have this unit flanked on 3 sides, and this unit should break rather soon. It is getting completely surrounded. In fact, I don't think they're even going to be able to go. No, they'll still be able to escape. But anyway, those are a few of the ins and outs of battle. I will see you all next time. Bye.